All right, we are coming up here, Halloween City, and it's gonna be a warm one. Fall, it's here, it's not there. The Commanders, they were gonna lose, now they're winners. There's change in the air. Here's Riggo with that and a whole lot more.
Yeah, Toddy. Yeah, it's interesting you say all the above. You just reminded me that, 2 days, well, whenever it is, Thursday's Halloween, correct?
Yep.
Well, I'm already in costume, but I get up every morning in costume for Halloween. What was I going to say? Well, listen, I've been on a busman's holiday for the last couple of days. My lovely wife, Lisa Marie, bailed out of town first thing Monday morning. She won't be back till, I don't want to say late, hopefully it ain't going to be late, Friday night. So she's been gone all week.
Bachelor City.
Yeah, and isn't there Slovenia, or there's a town? Well, I live in Slobivia. Slobivia is really, it's great. You don't have to pick anything up. I got shit spread all over the house. Of course, my house is a construction site. That is one thing, because, as everybody knows, the refrigerator is on, what do they call that? It's on a ventilator right now.
Is that even called? Yeah, so you got your old one going. What's the new one called? Is it even called a refrigerator? It's got to have like some supreme,
that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like cooling system or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I've had to refinish the floor in a couple of places. That's one thing, scuff marks and all that. So I've been, in fact, when I get home this afternoon, I will go in and I will have to sand what I laid down. Yeah, I put down a coat of floor sealer, polyurethane. But here's the deal. I went and I got some polyurethane. I only got a quart of it, and I looked at it and on it and said, if you want to do a floor, it says great for indoor projects. And it said, but if you're doing a floor, you need polyurethane floor finish. And I went, oh shit. So I look, and of course, I go out to the place and I take this can back but do you think they have a quart? Because I don't need a gallon, but I got to end up buying a whole goddamn gallon. And I'm telling you, if I use a pint, I will have used way too much. I mean, I don't need that. I've probably got maybe 20 square feet. So in other words, it's kind of going in that direction. And now you got a floor, and I don't know what the finish is. I mean, I don't think it's a gloss, and I don't think it's semi-gloss. You got satin and all these different finishes. So I got satin, and it looks like this morning I'm going, it doesn't quite match the rest of the floor.
Better get this right by Friday night.
Yeah, but I look at it this way, Todd. It's better than the scuff marks. You know what I'm saying? The scuff marks are
that's true.
Even I, because Lisa Marie was giving me trouble about the scuff marks, and it's always me. It's always my chairs where all the scuff marks. Don't ask me why. I guess because I'm a fat bastard, and when I slide my chair back, it just gouges into the floor. But actually, when I looked at it, I thought, she's right. The floor does look a whole lot better without. But for me, it was like I can live with scuff marks. I mean, they're they're in my underwear all the time. So it's like, who cares? It's like just the way life is. But so anyway, I've got to go home, sand, and refinish, and I think I'll have everything together. I'm going to go out tomorrow, close on the new refrigerator, and then
you got to close on it. Are you financing this thing? I mean,
let me tell you something. What I'm paying for this. I'll tell you what, I could damn near buy a car for what I'm paying. I could definitely buy a used car, a very nice used car. But, it's like my daughters. I told them that, Scrooge, a.k.a. Lisa Marie, was not feeling it when I wanted to go for my particular model. But then she finally came around. But because they were like, like my youngest daughter, Coco, she was saying, Daddy, you're the chef. A chef has, for his culinary purposes, he needs, and actually I was going to say, you back me into a wall. This is the way it works. I don't get my refrigerator. The chef is going on strike. I'm going on strike. And I'm serious. If I drop dead tomorrow, I'm scared for Lisa Marie, what's going to happen to her. I mean, she's going to be eating out a whole lot.
Uber Eats, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, so I got that. And so in a way, it's good. Kind of, you think, oh yeah, I'm going to have the house to myself, just me and the cats. And then, after about a couple hours, when I dropped Lisa Marie off at the airport, and I'm sitting around, I'm going, how do I miss her? I need the big boss lady back to show me what to do. I need my handler. I think I was talking about that. My what's his name, Colonel Parker. But yeah, I've got everything under control, and I should have everything ship-shape by the time that LM lands on Friday. So
no OSHA violations, anything.
Oh, that's a good thing you bring that up. Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't. I will say I have one violation. That is, I haven't worn my hard hat, but I'm working inside. I don't see anything that's going to bump my head, but you could. But I definitely wear eye protection and ear protection. I don't know why I wear ear protection. I can't hear anyway. So what am I protecting? I'm protecting my non-hearing ears. It's like, okay, but just in case. So yeah, now you bring it up, Todd. I might just go home and put on my hard hat. You never know,
right?
So, but I'm glad you brought that up. I've got one violation that I know of. That's the only one I know of. I don't drink on the job, so I haven't violated that. I mean, I will drink after the job. And you know what's interesting, and that's why I'm thinking, that painters, I don't know, I don't want to be besmirching an occupation here or vocation, but it seemed like a lot of painters, at least in the old days, the ones I knew, a lot of those guys were alcoholics. And I'm thinking, back in those days,
monotony.
Well, it ain't just that. I think it's constantly you're around the smell of paint. And I'm going to take everything on the cans I was using yesterday. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated place. Well, people in the old days, they would, just give me that
lead.
Give me that oil-based paint with lead in it and just slap it on. Day after day after day. And then at night,
they're already high throughout the day. They got to keep the buzz going.
That's exactly where I'm going with that. Thank you, Todd. You figured that one out. Anyway, what do you got?
All right, John, we are going to break down the Hail Mary like the Zapruder film back in the day. We're going to take a look at it from the angles, different perspectives, the soul-crushing defeat for the Chicago Bears, the fortunate, amazing win by the Washington Commanders last Sunday that has the NFL aflutter.
Yeah, it does. I'm wondering, I think even Ken Burns might do a documentary on this play.
100%. And I tell you, I got some clips here by NFL Films that already got a head start. And we're also going to talk to Joe Jacoby in today's show later today. Your former teammate, one of the original Hogs, and a member who is long overdue to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So hopefully this is the year for him. And we're going to talk about, you've talked about this for some time where you knew and your teammates knew there was a point within the context of the locker room and the way you guys were playing where you caught some magic and you caught some fire. And we'll catch up with the big guy, Joe Jacoby, on that. All right, so let's start off with first, John. The Bears had won 3 straight games, with and their star quarterback, Caleb, who came in, and he was average, he was ordinary. And for Jay,
he hadn't caught fire like Daniel said.
No, he has not. But he's grown. He's gotten better each game.
And he's a local kid.
Yeah, 100%. So the game, Commanders were fizzling in the red zone. They had 4 field goals.
Let me stop you there.
Yes, sir.
And the reason I want to do that is because that's critical when you can't score in the red zone. Classic example was championship game years ago against San Francisco. We get down there and we scored. I think it was up 14, maybe even 20. I can't remember. But then all of a sudden we couldn't get it in. We couldn't get it in, and unfortunately, Mark Mosley was struggling that day. I think he missed 4 field goals.
That's right.
And every time that happens, you're giving momentum back to the other team. You're making them stronger because they start to get, and that's what I think you would. Had they been able to score in the red zone, this game wouldn't have been nearly as close and it wouldn't have come down. And on the one hand, though, you kind of go, yeah, but if you was going to script it, you couldn't script it any better than this because it's a fan. It was a play that has actually electrified the community, the city, and the fans. So I don't, if you had thumped the Bears, everybody going great. But to win it this way, there's some magic that goes beyond just the win of football.
And as we talked about, for certain teams in certain seasons, you go back and you look at a particular play or game that sparked them, and you're like, okay, this was a turning point. They caught it because this would have been a devastating loss. And they only had a 3% chance to win on that final play. That's how bad the odds were because, to your point, the Bears, by the second half, they're like going, guys, we're in this thing. And the Bears, they took the lead. They screwed up earlier in the fourth quarter where Matt Eberflus and his offensive coordinator, They brought in a backup offensive lineman, first and goal from the 1. First and goal from the 1. And they bring him in to do a William Perry, go in. What do? They botch the snap. Commanders take it over right there. So they didn't take the lead off of that. They're still in the ball game here. And Williams leads them back down the field, and they take the lead.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those games that the Commanders would have been kicking themselves, which to the point of momentum could have taken them the other way.
Correct.
Because you dominated a team for all intents and purposes, and yet you couldn't close the deal on your home field. So now you've got a play that was a fluke, and I think everybody can be honest about that. This stuff just doesn't happen. And this will be one of those plays where you remember where you were. I remember where I was on the Doug Flutie Hail Mary for BC in 1984. I know exactly where I was.
Got nothing but.
But to your point, and to you, John Riggins, everybody remembers where they were when you ran the ball on 4th and 1. Everybody remembers. That's a moment.
What are you talking about?
In the Super Bowl.
What? Oh, that play. Okay.
Yeah, everybody remembers that iconic play, and we're going to remember this. We just will, because this is the first time we've been in the desert for so long under the previous regime that it's galvanized the community. The league has taken notice. The Commanders, they're like ranked top 5 in the league now.
Didn't you send me something where right now, mid-season, if you did Super Bowl?
Yes.
But I think like Lions are ahead of them, and they're in the number 2 spot.
Yes, because
that's incredible.
You know, we keep saying all along, well, they haven't played anybody, they haven't done anybody, but you line up and play who's there. And the other part that is true, a lot of the teams that were supposed to be good for it this year aren't good for it.
Yeah.
They just aren't. The Cowboys are ass. The 49ers are a mess. You don't know who you're going to get week to week. So far, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. That are
Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions are proving it. The Minnesota Vikings have been a shock.
Atlanta's got something going on.
Atlanta's a little helter-skelter, but they're right there. Right. Buffalo Bills are getting it done. But a lot of the teams that you thought were going to be, they're not.
I think in this day and age, you don't have any. You can't really go into a season because it is what do you call it? Musical chairs. Some teams get. What was I just reading? The Jets. You know, they got all of a sudden, you know, they were supposed to be something this year.
Hype, right?
Right. And they had the great defense, and they got all this stuff going on. And then they even brought more of Rodgers receivers in and everything. So they're struggling. They're a bad team. They're still the Jets.
And you can tell that their locker room is a mess. They fire the head coach.
How can
Rodgers
it not be?
dissed him. I mean, a total mess, which, again, that's why this is such a feel-good story, because you can see with Quinn and his coaching staff and the players, there's genuine enthusiasm, and they like each other, and we're digging what's going on here. So let's break this down. I want to show you, this is the first one. This is taken by a Chicago Bears fan.
Okay.
And
remember, so I take it it's taken with a video.
This taken with his phone. Now you got to remember that there's only 2 seconds left. This is the final play of the game,
and that's why they didn't kick They didn't kick the extra point, right?
Correct, because that was the final play of the game. Okay, so let's go to the Chicago Bears. This great vantage point from the end zone.
What do you got for the front man? This is the play of the game.
Oh, this guy's pressured.
We need you, David.
Okay, everybody converges in this one spot down the field. But now Daniels is buying time with his leg.
13 seconds.
Now they're all together. And that's all you do.
Watch the Bears fan reaction here. This guy's about to throw up.
He looks like Chris Farley.
Watch this.
People jumping. This is like they just won the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, the fans that came out of the stadium.
He's going to be sick.
Well, I would be if I was.
This is
the play of the game.
He called it.
And they're not thinking for real that this has any legitimate chance, right?
Exactly. He's saying it's the play of the game because this is the play, because the last play, and we're going to win. Wrong.
All right, now this, and this is a creative one that I like this, and I think your daughters would enjoy this.
Okay,
Coco and Hannah.
Let's check this out.
Comes down to one last play.
Listen to the music.
And it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line. And it's caught!
There are not two more extreme emotions than you can get than what happened right there. Extreme in the sense that Washington is just beside themselves, and Chicago beside themselves, but for completely the depths of hell is where Chicago sank to on that play.
And it's, you should see the fans and the reactions and the fan videos and people, because remember, the Bears, this would have been their 4th straight win. They went on the road and they're feeling so good, and they got this.
And they're not playing well during the bulk of the game.
No,
not particularly well.
No. I mean, they kept battling and hung in there and did
making
enough,
mistakes,
but did enough to win the game.
Yeah, thought they did.
And so with that, the cornerback, Mr. Tyreek Stevenson. Now this guy,
he shouldn't have a job.
Yeah, and he, as you can imagine, he is just being excoriated, as he rightly. He got into it with Terry McLaurin, who, Terry McLaurin's known to be humble, a nice guy, and he got a personal foul call. This guy was woofing all game. They got there's tape of him woofing in the pregame, talking smack to people. And when that play starts, he's got his back to the play.
Right.
And the ironic thing out of all this, John, is he was supposed to be the guy that was shadowing Noah Brown and was supposed to be in the back. And he just ran in. And he's the guy whose hand tipped the pass to Noah Brown.
I don't know. I don't know what you do with that. Like you said, the head coach has got his own stuff to worry about. Maybe he's not going to be around any longer. But if I was him before I went, I would go ahead and take him with me. The guy that was sitting there talking to the fans and doing all this. You can't explain that. The Washington had a player here, a quarterback, a couple 3 years ago, that they went out and I think they were playing Detroit, tied the game, won the game, and they needed to finish out the game, overtaking photographs with the fans.
Right. He's on Instagram.
Who does that?
Right. It's like, and you've always said, John, one thing you've always said, and it's how you approach it: be a professional. Be a professional.
Do your job.
Do your job. Be a professional. And for this guy, I mean, you've got to bench him. You got to do whatever the most forceful things you can do.
I think you let him go. I don't know what it does. I'm with you. I don't know.
Second-year player.
Huh?
He's a second-year player, but that's so egregious.
It's what?
It's so egregious what this guy's
Well, because it sends I don't know. First of all, he's going to be a pariah in the locker room.
Right.
It's like, he's got friends and all that stuff, and they'll go, oh, man, well, whatever. They'll work. But at the same time, down deep, this guy cost us a game that could have cost us a playoff spot. Who knows? I don't know. I would what are you going to do? The players are powerless to do anything over it, but certainly management, i.e. the coaching staff and the general manager, they need to take a hard look at this guy and say, this is exactly the guy we ain't looking for. You are not a good community guy.
You're me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're that guy. I don't think we need you on the team.
And 2 other points to just how Eberflus, the head coach, screwed up. Remember, they had 2 previous plays, and Tony Romo called the last one where, they were back. And they had 2 pass completions prior to that. If they had got that last completion, 13-yard to Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels can't throw the ball that far from where they were. And the fact that they gave up the outsides, the short outsides, that even put them in a position to hold, and they had 3 timeouts. 3 different team captains and now come out and saying, we cannot believe we didn't call timeout to get ourselves together and because of the hectic pace or whatever. So the head coach, his ass is on the fire. Now, this may be my favorite call, John. This is the Spanish language broadcast.
Do you want me to translate?
Please do.
Aguanta Daniels, no tiene con quién. Ahora sí, Daniels. a lanzar a lo profundo del terreno de juego. Ahí está la recepción. Touchdown. Touchdown de Washington. Touchdown. Está adentro.
There you go.
Touchdown.
He can't help but bring a little soccer into it, can he? It's just the way it is.
Listen to this at the
El
end.
Ave María funcionó. Apareció el 85. Tras un rebote, Noah Brown se convierte en el héroe de todo Washington DC. ¡Enorme! ¡Grande Commanders!
Buen trabajo ahí por parte de Jaden Daniels, aguantar todo el tiempo. Era un Ave María. El pase llega y es atrapado por Noah Brown.
Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, hey, goodbye. Buenas noches, Chicago. Aguanta Daniels, no tiene con quién.
Unbelievable.
Buenas
Ahora sí,
noches.
Daniels.
Notice here, though,
A lanzar a lo
defensive
profundo del
linemen,
terreno de juego.
they're like,
Ahí está la
right,
recepción.
whatever.
Touchdown.
Right. We don't know what's
Touchdown de
gonna happen.
Washington.
I mean,
Touchdown.
I don't know anything about the Chicago Bears, but based on what you're seeing there, based on the guy that's John with the fans and he's woofing on Terry McLaurin and all this stuff, I'm not so sure they're all that well coached.
No. And that's what
They're undisciplined.
Because just analyzing the final play and the final 3 plays, John, they had a linebacker spying on Jaden Daniels, who was sitting in the middle of the field. You saw he had 13 seconds, 12.87 or 97. He had 13 seconds to move around and scramble back there. There was a little bit of holding, but at that point of the game, and if you also watch closely in the end zone and some of the other film, it's like a basketball game where the shot's up and everybody's boxing out and guys are bowling
Right.
for position.
No, that's okay.
Everybody's brawling out there. They had that guy spying on him 30 yards off the ball. Jaden Daniels wasn't going to run it 55 yards for a touchdown. Everybody knew that wasn't going to happen. So it was poorly coached. They made all kinds of mistakes. And then finally, I think we can all agree that the best in the business, and I know your boy Steve Sable, this is the NFL films.
Oh, they've
Now
already
you can
put
step
this up.
into it.
Yeah.
Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line.
There it is. This is why people love the passing game. Now in slow motion, it's even better.
Look at that.
This is what I wanted to
The
see.
immaculate reception.
Yeah, it's along those lines. It certainly is. Unfortunately,
Look
it
at
wasn't
that.
a playoff.
Look at
game.
that camera.
Yeah, that guy had it down.
And the
They
ball
just
is
misjudged where the ball was.
caught. It's a miracle.
See, that's a great. Then that's why probably you see nowadays, Todd, that the game is moving towards the passing game, because even though that was in slow motion and you can get all, you get
The ballet of it.
Yes, exactly. That even in real time, that long pass, not knowing what's going to happen, and then this turns out to be the end result, and you have somebody who literally created magic on the field. I mean, the team did.
And that was
together.
the genius of the Sables in NFL film.
Yeah, that was classic. Right there,
I
what they
mean,
did.
was that not the
Yeah.
perfect NFL film?
It's just what
shot?
you said. It's poetry. They have that. They put music to it, and then the narrator. It's too bad John Facenda is not with us anymore. Yeah, exactly.
Stadium.
Well, they've got some pretty talented people up there. There's no question about that.
Well, speaking of some pretty talented people, we're going to catch up with your teammate, the legend, one of the original Hogs, Mr. Joe Jacoby.
That'll be more than happy, or I will be more than happy to have Joe on the show. Looking forward to talking to him.
All right, Riggo, let's bring in your former teammate, your stud, a man who's long overdue for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the one and only Joe Jacoby.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for giving us some time this morning. Everybody, at least I remember back in the old days, Jake, I used to, of course, you wore the number 66. And I used to refer to you as I-66 because basically when you ran behind Jake, it was like being on a freeway.
He was the road grader.
Yes, you did not have cars on either side, and the ones that were up ahead, they were sorry they were. Anyway, I guess, the best place to start is with the team. And are you surprised that the Commander/Redskins are in the position they're in right now with a half a season behind them?
Yeah, I really am. That's amazing. Josh Harris should speak every week because didn't he threaten them after they started out so bad, he goes, "We're not putting up with this. If this is going to continue, there will be major changes again at the end of the year." So I think Josh Harris is the one that should be credited with this 6-2 team right now.
Yeah, the big thing is keeping it going, obviously. Let me ask you this. I've told Todd and other folks in the past, when I sat out the one season, then came back, and, of course, you were a rookie in 1981, and that team, I think, went 8-8, lost the first 5 games, but recovered and started the process of developing into a championship-caliber team. When we went back to camp in 1982, of course, that was the year that eventually that team would win Super Bowl 17. But was there a moment in your mind, a particular moment, because there is in mine, I'll tell you, but you got to show me yours before I show you mine, in the situation that, a turning point that gave you the feeling like, hey, we got something going here. Something could happen. Because that's what I think personally is so critical with a team. The coaching, yes, that's a big part of it. But once the team catches that spark, that's an interesting proposition. Psychologically, I couldn't tell you what it was. I'm sure there are people that are out there that can. But I'm just wondering, was there a moment in time where it flashed across your mind that, hey, we might be the real deal?
Gosh, John, I can't remember any certain moment of the season in '82 that would resonate that this may be our year. This we're clicking and everything like that. I think we just went out and was enjoying ourselves. You can't say much about other than that what we did. I mean, you had 4 knuckleheads like myself on the offensive line, so we all weren't that bright. So we had to rely on you to get these.
That's like that movie, Dumb and Dumber. Jake, what I was going let me tell you what my idea of it was. We played so well at the end of the 81 season, and we beat some teams that people would have thought you couldn't have. But you got to remember the core of that team. A lot of people forget this. Was the team that went down to Dallas and came within 1 game of having home field advantage in 1979. That team was already in place. The new additions, such as yourself and Russ, and of course Jeff, who had gotten there a year before you did, and Donnie, he'd been there as well. But that Dave Butts was there. I mean, the nucleus of that team was in place. Joe Gibbs inherited a full house. And, he almost screwed it up going 0-5 trying to do West Coast offense because that wasn't the people. That wasn't the talent he had. And I give him so much credit for swallowing his pride and doing what I'm sure Joe Bugle and Dan Henning and et al. Others convinced him to do to start running the football. But when we went to Philadelphia to start the 82 season, Philadelphia had won a Super Bowl a couple of years prior. They'd been in the playoffs the year before. And we go up to the Vet. And we're playing this team, giving them all they want, and they're up on us. And what I recall, it was when we were down, and I think by 7 points, but I'm a little bit vague on this. But Theismann hit Charlie Brown, I think, on an 80-yard bomb. And what I always thought that was the game winner. I think that tied the game. I think this game either went into overtime or Mosley kicked a field goal at the end. But when Theismann connected with Charlie Brown, for me anyway, the lights went off because all of a sudden you felt like this is a very good team we're playing in their stadium, first game of the year, and you've given them all they can handle. And it's to this day it kind of gives me goosebumps when I talk about it because it's a moment that you'll never forget. And when we won that game, then the next week we go down and play Tampa Bay, another team that had made the playoffs, and we just kicked the poop out of Tampa Bay down there. I think I had over 100 yards rushing. It was just a driving rainstorm the whole game. And so all of a sudden, your first 2 games out, you've beaten 2 teams that had been in the playoffs the year before. Then all of a sudden you had a 6-week break, which wasn't good, but I think that the belief that amongst the team, our teammates, was so strong, and we really were an unbelievably talented football team. There was no reason not to, but as they say, from that point on, I think it's become history.
Well, I agree with it. You look back at it, I think you replay 81. I mean, to go on that tear and to win out like we did for the rest of that year. I mean, I remember the last game we played out in L.A.
Right.
We just ran up and down the field on the Rams. And then we come back in and start the next year. And we got some tough teams to play. I remember the Philadelphia game. It was so hot up in that stadium. I think it was 115 or 120 degrees on the field. I remember sitting on the sideline with my shoes off, having an ice bag under each foot because my feet were burnt. It was so hot up there. But we ended up pulling that out, like you said. The next week we go down and play in that monsoon, and we got there on Noah's Ark, and it just flowed right into things with us. And it's just hard to believe. I look back on all that, and then we won a lot of games. I mean, a lot of games with just pure talent, pure want. That's what it
there
was.
You go.
Pure want and a desire. We hated losing. We did not want to lose because, for the rest of the team, they had easy coaches. We had Joe Bugle, and that made the difference in all the world to us. I mean, we didn't want to listen to him.
Well, when a guy's yelling at you and cussing at you all the time, you kind of have a tendency, at least I would, to tune him out. I will say this, though. I mean, the few times, I remember when, as the seasons used to go on, we got to the point where obviously I knew it was a waste of my time, and I might stay awake a little bit better in the team meeting if I left, where the receivers meeting was and went into the offensive line meeting with Bugle. But even that was a little bit intimidating but I remember one time we were in one of the meetings because, before that, because the way the meeting room was divided, there was just one of those curtains that you pull across, not like you'd see in a hospital room, and basically you'd hear film smacking off the wall when Bugle would get mad at him yelling and cussing over there. To say it was distracting is kind of an understatement. But I do remember one time, which Buggs, I really appreciated him for this because he would yell at you guys constantly. I remember one time we're watching film, Joe, and he turns around to me and he goes, "Hey, Riggo, hey, you didn't see it there, huh?" Meaning that I ran past a hole. But he, normally if that would have been one of the Hogs, film would have been against the wall. But I think I would have said, "Joe, if we're going to look at all the holes that I've run past, we're going to be here all day. So let's just move on."
My bad, boys.
Yeah, it's just the way it works with me. I don't see sometimes.
Well, to your point on that Eagles games, guys, you were down 27-14 heading into the fourth quarter.
There you go.
And the Eagles were favored by 6.5, and you ripped off 20 points in the fourth quarter to push it into OT.
So it was, Charlie's touchdown tied it up.
78-yard bomb.
And by then, it was, Philadelphia was on their heels.
No, Charlie's bomb made it 27-21. Your 2-yard run made it 28-27. That's when you took the lead.
But then we ended up having to kick a field goal, didn't we? Or no?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Mosley kicked a field goal. Harold Carmichael scored again for them, and Mosley kicked 2 final field goals. So it was a battle. It went in OT.
Yeah, and like I said, Philadelphia 2 years prior to that had been in the Super Bowl. Now they were defeated by the Raiders, but at the same time, they were an excellent football team. I mean, they had, I think they had the Polish Rifle, Ron Jaworski.
Harold Carmichael.
They had Carmichael, and they had a real stout defense. They had, I think, what's his name was playing for him at that time, wasn't he?
Reggie. Reggie White.
Reggie White,
and
I believe.
Wilbert Montgomery in the backfield. They were loaded.
They were good. They were an excellent football team. That's what I'm saying. When we beat the Eagles, and based on what you said, Joe, I never really considered that. But we finished that 81 season so strong, and like I said, I think all those parts started coming together with a new regime, new ways of doing things, and really we had literally a new and improved offensive line. The defense was pretty much the same defense that had been there in the past. Mm-hmm. But we had all these young bucks, young studs up front, And, then all of a sudden, Gibbs decided to, ditch this West Coast offense and start, slamming the ball.
0-5 will do it.
Yeah, well, it's not good for your job security if you keep losing in the NFL anyway.
Well, that's what a lot of people don't remember here, how precarious, and that everybody thought he was going to get fired. Brand new guy, like you say.
Oh, Gibbs definitely did.
And nobody really knew the name, the brand of Joe Gibbs coming from the West Coast, because we didn't get any San Diego Chargers, and everyone we knew was Eric Coryell.
Right.
And getting off to 0-5, and I'm going, oh, that's a little squirrely. But so who flipped the switch? Was it Bugle that said, hey?
I don't know. But I have to believe that it was Bugle and perhaps Don Bro, the running backs coach, who was my coach, Dan Henning, who was the offensive coordinator. Who knows? Maybe even Richie Pettibone weighed in on it, because Richie had been there in bygone days. Just said that I think these ain't the guys that you have. So many coaches, in my mind, make this mistake that they've got their system. And they get it in their head their system works anywhere they go. It's their system, and it's plug and play no matter what. In my experience, that's never been the case. You have to look at what you have, and you have to work around the talent. And Joe didn't quite see that in the beginning. And as I said earlier, you got to give him a lot of credit, because he was able to swallow his pride and go ahead and start doing it the way maybe some other people was suggesting to him. But as far as I know, whether maybe it came to him during the night in a dream or whatever, that, hey, I got to start running the ball. I don't know. But clearly he changed the way they did things, and basically changed his whole career, because once he won a Super Bowl, he knew that this was the way to go, have a good, strong. It's kind of like Ronald Reagan, in the sense that, what used to be his strength through, in other words, deter countries that are trying to, like Iran and those kind of places, peace through strength, I think it is, something like that. Peace through strength. And I think that that's kind of what the football team became. I think when we came to town, or other people came here, they knew that they were going to get 60 minutes of football, that this wasn't that outfit. And as we go along this way, do you see any similarities? And this is a tough one, though. We're talking 40 years. The game has completely changed. But my guess is the way they won last week, if Bugle was breaking down film with the offensive line, and you've won this game that is just absolutely, the right word is exploded in the fans, where they actually knew they were going to get, that this was the end of the line with a few seconds left to go in the game, and you come out and you win. The euphoria in this town is palpable. What I'm saying is there's two ways to look at this. You get a huge win, keeps you on the track, keeps you where you want to be, which is very gratifying. But Bugle, once he looks at this film and sees 4 or 5 field goals, 4 field goals?
Yeah.
That means you're not scoring touchdowns when you're in position. I got a feeling there'd be some film slapped against the wall here and there. I mean, you enjoy the win.
More than that, besides the film being thrown around the room and stuff like that, he'd be kicking our butts out there on the field and, really knocking us down a notch or two, because we thought because we won the football game, we won up there in Philly. He goes, you guys haven't done anything yet. And he would work the heck out of us. And he kept that up the whole year and stuff and like that. And, I still think he's one of the catalysts on our organization that got us through a lot of those tough games because of his mentality, his toughness. He went over, he's the one that poked the defense, in their butts and stuff, and he woke up the grizzly bear, and they started playing better. So, there's some things that comes out of that. I don't know. Watching this game this past weekend, it was kind of exciting, but I'm watching it, and they're missing opportunities. And I think that has to do with the mentality that they have on that team. It's been a long time, John, as you know, that this organization and this team has done anything positive. Somebody had to step up and make a play and to ignite this team. Now, was it that last second touchdown? I think there's a lot more involved in that. I think from my perspective, I'm a little biased. I think they have improved on the front from what they've had in the past.
Big time.
I'm not saying these guys are world beaters, but they're playing as a unit and they're playing well, and they have a running game. And that opens up for this young kid. I mean, it's just like having another running back there. I mean, he's your speed guy, he's your edge guy. So it was pretty neat to watch. And my daughter's sitting there and she goes, "Wow, how'd they do that?" I said, "That's a design play." She goes, "There's no way that's a design play." I said, "Yeah, it is." I said, "You get two guys on the outside, you got the two slot guys, and one of them, depending on where the ball goes, is the guy who's back there in the back. He's the one going to get the rebound, the tip. The other three guys are supposed to converge on the ball and tip that thing backwards." And that's what happened. That ball went backwards, and that kid's standing there with nobody around.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should say that, but what I recall is basically it's just the quarterback. You get a bunch of receivers in one spot, and the quarterback just heaves the ball into that spot, and they try to keep the ball in the air, and hopefully somebody comes down with it. On the flip side of that, defensively, they're out there. They're supposed to bat the ball down. They're supposed to spike the ball if you can get to it. And it's kind of interesting, which I didn't notice it at the time, but they had one of their DBs was over there having a chat with the crowd while he doesn't even know the play has started, which is like, if they did that 100 times, we talked about this, I'm thinking maybe 10 times out of 100, my point here is you can't win like that every week. That was just plain dumb luck, and that's about all you can say for it. And that's why I say, if they look at the film, and this is what gets into this week's game, I think is kind of interesting. They're playing a team here that really, are going nowhere, the New York Giants. You have this huge win, and there's so much emotion. You've excited the city so much. It's so easy.
Don't say it.
No, I'm not going to say trap. I'm not going to say trap, but I'm going to say to look past the New York Giants, which I guess is a trap.
Well, let me tell you something. The New York Giants, they're playing hard. They were competitive.
They're fighting their guts out.
John, they truly are. They are playing hard. Their defense is leading the league in sacks with 35. They are playing hard. They almost beat Pittsburgh.
I predict the New York Giants win this weekend.
I'm just saying it is set up for that. But the point of this whole exercise in talking to you, Jacob, when teams, because that's what everybody's feeling in the D.C. area, to your point, that we haven't felt in forever.
Yeah, 40 years.
That you got a group of guys that you like rooting for. You can tell they like playing with each other. You can tell that there's a different chemistry and a magic that's going on. John, they had a 3% chance to win that game on the final play. Those were the odds.
3%?
3%.
So that means 3 out of 100.
And the Bears
Now,
had
I know
won 3.
you would have took it, Todd.
I'm going to need some sweet action on that one. But the Bears, I mean, they made so many mistakes on the final play that it could cost the head coach's job, for real. I mean, and just bad form all the way around. So they know they were fortunate to win this game. They had stalled out in the red zone. They couldn't get it going. But good things happen to good teams, right? We've always said that with the Kansas City Chiefs and what you guys had going on when you knew you had something special going on. And let's go out and play because we're going to knock the hell out of these guys. We're feeling really good about ourselves. Will this translate into that?
Well, I would say, go ahead, Jake.
Well, I think there's something to all that, Todd. Now the pressure comes this week, not on the players. It comes on the coaching staff. Because they got to be able to motivate these guys, because these guys think, all we got to do is wait, and we could do this any time within the last 20 seconds of the game and throw this long bomb and catch it and win the game. That doesn't happen like that.
Pretty shitty game plan.
I like it.
Riggo likes it.
They got to be able to, take this game over. And I remember vividly hearing all this stuff when Gibbs would get up there before we went out. He goes, don't give them anything. Don't give them anything that they could take to and gain some momentum on. So it's also left up to the team to snuff this out and put it away and don't play around with these guys and get out of there with a win. And that's what I remember when we were playing. He goes, it's 4 quarters. Joe would say that every week we got 4 quarters. Let's don't give them anything. Let's win this. Let's go home.
Now that we're talking about this, and of course, not all of it, but a lot of the credit, not saying that there certainly shouldn't be a large amount of it going towards the rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. But you got to look at this, and you got to look at Dan Quinn and say, he's got to get a little credit here. I mean, when you think about it, and also your general manager, when you look at this whole thing, and that's what was interesting about the old teams, I think, is that when one guy'd go down, the next man up sometimes ended up staying there. In other words, that's what kind of depth that you had. And I think that Dan Quinn, he came within a couple of plays of being a Super Bowl winning coach, and probably could still be in Atlanta had that gone the other way. But there's something to what's going on. He basically, he almost has 30-some new guys. I mean, yeah, they created the nucleus overnight. And I guess, when you look at football, it is plug and play now. It's a completely different era. And, and I say bully for the players because because of free agency, they're finally getting their due. But at the same time, it's a different era because, the guy who's going to play well here in a couple of years, paycheck comes along, he's going to be playing for the but for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's just the nature of the beast. So you have to appreciate it and savor every moment, just as this victory last Sunday has done for the fans here. Because I think what's done more than anything is it's reintroduced them to the past. So that old feeling, the way they used to feel on Monday and during the week getting ready for the next game, that this is going someplace. Yeah, this is good.
It's palpable, Jake. You feel it. It's real.
Yeah, you do. And I think these guys were feeling it during that game. I think some things got out of hand. They made some mental mistakes. And they had to fight for their lives to win that football game. And they're going to take something from that to the next week and the week after that. This will come back up again sometime the rest of the year. This past game, that they'll remember they did, and they'll end up winning off of that. And that also relies on the coaching staff remembering those things and what plays work and stuff like that. So this is something that can really be built and go far. So we'll see how well they are adapting and living with it and just going week to week.
All right, Jake, we're going to let you go. Go out there and finish chopping that cord of wood, and we'll check in with you down the road.
Or is that cord of wood now turned?
John, it was a cord or something else. It wasn't wood.
Well, I said cord, but yeah, I think you're right. There's something buried in the wood pile that comes in quarts.
Jake, work on that golf game.
Will do, guys. Thank you. Y'all have a great day and a good weekend.
All right, Jake. Thanks.
Always good to catch up with the big guy, Joe Jacoby, the road grader, Riggo.
That's who he was. Yeah, I got to say this. I hope next week isn't the same, although if it is, it'd be kind of interesting if they win it in the last seconds. But that's not going to be ultimately a good sign playing the Giants. But like you said, the Giants are fighting their guts out, and we'll see what happens. And we hope you have a great week, and let's see what they'll do on Sunday. This is El Riggo and Toddy, and we are out.